Live from 864 Sound in Greenville, South Carolina, it's the Wash Bros Podcast with your hosts, Matt Jackson and Clay Smith.
What's up, guys? It's Matt Jackson, Clay Smith, and, drumroll, our special guest, Pat Clark. We're the Wash Bros, and this is going to be the Upstate of South Carolina edition. So, you want to kick it off, Pat?
Love it, yeah. Hey, honored to be here, guys. I really appreciate it. I saw what you guys were doing, and I was like, dude, I want to be a part of it.
Yeah. Episode 12, baby.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, we'll always remember this one for sure. Our first guest.
I know,
Mr.
right?
Pat Clark.
That was one of the things, too, we talked about in the beginning. We were like, we don't want to have guests. We just want to do, keep it exclusive, and then well, at least the first one's a good one. So,
and if any of you guys don't know who Pat Clark is, he is the pressure washing guru of the Upstate. He is our role model. He is who we look up to and who we want to be like.
Not just the Upstate, though.
Not just the Upstate, though. He's across the country.
Yeah. With precision.
With Precision Pro Wash, I'm sure you've seen their trucks. They do a lot of big jobs, a lot of stuff around the area, and he'll be telling us a little bit about his story, where he came from, what he's doing now, and kind of you got your own product line too, correct? Like your own chemical base, and I've used it. Matt's used it. It works really, really well, actually. So how did you actually get started in pressure washing, Pat? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So it's actually crazy. I went to Bob Jones right here, and so my best friend from college was a town student, and so his dad owned Piedmont Valley Properties, and I actually was living in New York at the time. So got married, moved down here. He was like, dude, I got a job available. New York's super expensive, so when you get married, I'm like, there ain't no way we're buying a house in New York. So
right.
Plus, I like the weather down here. Like, I could ride my motorcycle year-round, So I moved down here. I worked for Piedmont Valley Properties, and that was like 2006. And so you know what happened in 2008, right? So the economy started going down. I started washing his spec houses. So the painter was doing it, and I was like, what's he doing? Because I'm making $500 a week, right? And I'm like, how can I make, another $100? What can I do? So that grind, like, I got my first kids on the way. I'm like, I'm just trying to, make ends meet. And so, he was like, I'm paying the painter $100 to wash these like 3,500 square foot houses. I'm like, oh, really? I can do that. So I freaking go buy a pressure washer from Home Depot or whatever. And at the time I had a Dodge Ram 1500 silver with the silver wheels. So it looked good. Oh, yeah. I put a water tank in the back of it. And I started washing his house. So some houses didn't have water, or I'd pull it from the next house that we were building type deal. And I remember me and my wife washing our first house took 8 hours for $100. And I'm like, hey, making $600 now.
Hey,
let's go,
something.
right?
Yeah.
And it was what it was. And so started doing that, and we were doing like 3 houses a week on top of that $500. So now, now I could buy some motorcycle parts, clean them in my apartment sink, sand them down, repaint them.
Hey, yeah.
So started doing that, and then obviously the economy started going down, so they ended up going out of business. It was me and his 2 sons. We were like running the company just until the very end, and I think my pay got docked. I can't remember exactly what happened, but I ended up quitting right there at the end, and I started going out and doing auto detailing. And so that's kind of how I started, was like literally these strip malls right here. This was my zone. I was living right here. It started in Malden. And Malden, I don't know if you guys have been in Malden.
Yep.
They're crazy, right? Like putting yard signs out, you know what I mean? Like they're nuts. And I remember I had to go to court, and they found a yard sign. They're like $750. I'm like, oh crap. You know what I mean? Like $750. Come on.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to freaking pay the electric bill here. Yeah. And so I remember I'm like, we're dressing the kids up in like dirty, ratty clothes. I'm bringing them to court with me. I'm like, sir, I'm just trying to provide for my family,
Yeah.
But it's funny now because like sometimes we'll put out yard signs that are, generating like 10 grand. I'll pay the $750 now.
Yeah.
But back when I, didn't have any money, it was like,
That's a lot of money, man.
it's a lot of money,
especially
right?
when you're trying to just get by.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And that's what it was, like in the very beginning, like getting the auto detailing, and then really I went to my first event. It was an NCE, National Cleaning Expo, and it was in Charleston. And I was like, what is this? I saw it online. It was back in the day when we were forums only, right? Facebook wasn't even in the thing.
Oh, yeah.
This is 16 years ago, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, I need to go to this. I'm talking to my wife, and we would always go back and forth. I was the visionary, right? And I'm like, we need to go. We need to do this. And she's like, well, we can't afford the hotel. And I'm like, frick. So what we did was we ended up, her mom lived in Joanna. So I had an Astro, a 1995 Astro van at this time. So we put a mattress in the back of the Astro van. My 2 kids' car seats, no joke, were ratchet strapped. They were like welded to the floor. It was kind of safe.
Yeah.
But they were literally like ratchet strapped to the backs of these front seats. And so when the mattress wasn't there, I had a water tank in there, right?
Yeah.
And so we drop off the kids and we go, and I'll never forget. I don't know how people found out. They must have saw us getting out of the van like the next morning or something. And one guy, I still don't know who that is to this day, but you know, if you're out there, man, you remember you let me use the shower in their hotel that morning. They're like, dude, you can use it. I was like, wow, all right. Like, I really appreciate that.
I want to shower.
Yeah. So that was good. And I remember they were making fun of me because I was young. I started the business when I was 20 and my first kid at 21. And so I was young and they were like, who's this young kid? And I was just trying to like absorb information. Like, who are the big dogs? I'm going to dinner with them. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And I was eating salad, but I still went to dinner.
Still there?
Right? And I was just trying to absorb it. And I remember me and my wife, we were scared to death, man, sitting in the crowd, like these, you know, big guys up front. They're like large companies, right? And I'm like scared to death. And I'm like scared to ask questions. But now it's like, no, I want to definitely ask questions. But me and my wife were like sitting in there, and the person in front of us, they were like, yeah, we just cleaned this roof and we sprayed it. And 2 hours later, we walked away with $1,200. And
What?
I'm like, what? I'm like, dude, I'm doing houses, like, you know what I mean, for like $200.
Yeah.
And it's taking me like 4 hours, right?
Yeah. You're like less than the $99 guy.
I was like, I really was. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it was probably. I didn't know my numbers back then, right? I was like, I didn't know anything about business. I could go wash a house, make a customer happy. I was kind of personable.
Yeah.
And I just want to serve the community at a high level, right? And make some money and provide for my family. And so when they said that, and me and my wife looked at each other and we're like, no freaking way. Like, what is this juju, right?
Nobody in Greenville knows about that, right?
Right? And that's exactly, like, roof cleaning was, like, not a thing.
Exactly.
And so I remember it was Sunbelt Supply or Sunbright Supply in Georgia, and roof cleaning was a full contact sport. They had Roof Clean with a K. Dude, I still got a scar on my leg for this day from this stuff. It burned.
Okay.
And you spray it on and you low pressure wash the roof, right? No, you were pressure washing the roof.
Yeah.
I did that.
Yeah.
It was me. But
It's the surface cleaner on a TPO roof.
yeah. It was like, what the heck, right? And so I didn't know, though. You know, that's what everybody was saying. And that was like the beginning of roof cleaning. And then that's kind of how we evolved mainly into a roof cleaning company.
I noticed like all your trucks, you tend to position roof cleaning over any other service.
Yeah. So now learning about business and like marketing and, you know, brand over message. And the way we do it now is we use our top sell principle. So what is your most expensive service? We go from there because then I can charge $800 for a house wash. Well, normally it would be $400 or $500, whatever it is.
Yep.
$800 doesn't seem that high when you have a $2,000 roof cleaning.
Yep.
And so we would do our top sell principle. So we designed our invoice this way. We really started dialing it in. I actually got a coach in 2000. So fast forward 2010, it was brute force, man. From 2008, that was the first event, to 2010, brute force, just like going and like didn't know anything about marketing. I mean, Yellow Pages, right? Spending $20,000, $30,000 a year when I'm making $130 a year,
Oof,
right? Taking home maybe 30,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
But you don't know what you don't know, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you'll get these many leads." You know what I mean?
It's
I'm
like Angie's
Angie
List.
and Home Advisor.
hey, yeah, right. It's like scam,
Exactly.
but you do it because inside you're like, "I want the leads. I think it'll work." Right?
If just one works, he'll pay for it, right?
Right? Yeah. No, but
Right.
but yeah, and you do what you can. I've tried anything and everything under the sun. Right? I'll try it once, but guess
Exactly.
what? Now I track. If there's not an ROI, I shut it down, and they know I track my numbers. When they come in and they do an interview now, I bring out my reports and everything. I'm like, so you're telling me you can get this, this, and this? And they're like, no. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So you got to know your numbers. But again, brute force in the beginning, right? Like 130,000, whatever it was. And I got a business coach in 2010 that taught me systems. And it was like, yeah, your invoice needs to go like this. You need to flow through your whole office. And that helped me put people in place. Like if you put people in place, the money will come.
Right.
That was scary for me. Like my first office person, how am I going to pay that person? Back in the day, it was like $600 a week. And I'm like, how am I going to do that? We can barely afford to pay ourselves anything.
Right.
But when you put that person in place, you got to trust the process a little bit. And we grew 30% by putting her in place.
Wow.
And so I was running a truck. My lead tech was running a truck. I was also doing sales. When I put her in place, I got off the truck and I moved my lead tech. I had basically 2 lead techs on a truck, split them up, got them 2 assistants, and I started really training and really diving into always be training. Like every day, you got to be training.
Yep.
And so that's what we did there to kind of get me off the truck to selling 100%.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I was doing that, I found out, I'm like, crap, because you go to these plateaus, right? And then you become the bottleneck, and that's what I did. I became the bottleneck. I was selling for like a truck and a half. And I couldn't book up that second truck. I'm like, what am I doing wrong?
It's like where I'm at right now.
Right?
Yeah,
and you're
Matt's
like, I
going through
can't do it. I can't do it. And you're trying, and you're like, all right, put more money here.
Yeah.
Right? So tell me a little bit about that. What does that feel like?
I mean, I don't know if you guys have felt it, but it seems like we had like a later spring. Like the spring was kind of weird for us.
The weather in general.
The weather is in general. So like
Yeah.
for us, like the June that we had now, it was like the leads were very dry
Oh, yeah.
and like spending a lot on marketing and all that stuff. So I mean, say last year I was kind of in Clay's shoes. So like killing it on an operator model, and then you find out like, okay, there's not that much more I can go without just sacrificing every minute of my life.
Yeah.
So I decided this year to get partnered with a guy who was doing another pressure washing business. He's almost like helps me like as almost like an operations manager type guy.
Love that.
And I got 2 lead techs that are running 2 trucks. So like it's just dealing with the ups and downs. And like I'd say we were doing like 40K something like April, and then May we did 70, and then June we'll probably do 40. So it's just like 70 was like max in the 2 trucks.
Yeah.
And then I'm at now 40 where I'm like, oh man, I'm running like 1.5 trucks. So it's kind of like,
Yep.
how do I position myself to keep that funnel where I can, like, when I was owner operator, use $40,000 a month is like, oh, I don't have time and day.
Yeah.
But yeah, 2
Working
trucks,
your
it's
butt
like
off.
I can eat up $20,000 in a week and a half.
Yeah.
Like loading them up correctly.
That's right.
And then it's just like staying ahead of the ebbs and flows, like kind of what we're seeing with the seasons and then like the holidays and bad weather and then oversaturation of everybody in the market right now.
Yeah.
So
that's a real thing. So what we would do is we would build out a marketing plan because you have your ebbs and flows, right? And we call it the performa. And the performa would show, and we would always go back 2 to 3 years and see what the history would say.
Yep.
Now, the last 3 years have been crazy, so like throw that out the window, right?
Yep.
Now it's like relearning what that is.
Yep.
Because the weather's changing. Like there's a lot of factors now that you have to kind of predict off of still, past stuff, but predict what is going to happen, right, with the weather. And so then we would market 30 to 60 days before so we can still keep that upward trend going up each month.
Yep.
And then we would hammer it with marketing.
Yep.
And boots on the ground, I think right now is like, that's where it's at.
Yeah. Because like you and I both do similar marketing strategies.
Me and
so
Matt
we're
are-
like fishing in the same
Yeah.
pond right now.
Oh, okay.
But now I'm having to like pull out and be creative because it's like, all right, we're running out of fish to catch. If
Yeah.
everybody's trying to tap that Google digital marketing arena, it's like, all right, well,
There's only so much.
there's only
right?
so much there. And then
Yeah.
you just, how much money is everybody spending on bidding?
And then and then it's that game, right?
Yep.
Who's going to bid the
Who's
most
gonna put
money?
the most money in.
And
Yeah.
it's like, oh,
Yeah.
you make this much money, but you got this much ad spend. It's just like your net's not that great.
And that's where you got to replicate. So
Yep.
instead of spending that money on like Google and stuff, don't get me wrong. That's why I kind of came up with Sales Boost, right? So you
Yep.
bolt those things on, but you have a strong boots on the ground base.
Yep.
And then you bolt on Google, then you bolt on Facebook, and then it feeds everything.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I was running just Google and all these other things, you're doing this because that's what the market's doing. So
Exactly.
whenever
Up
they're
and down,
ready to
baby.
go, oh, I need this clean. Then everything's, you know what I mean?
Yep.
That's when you're doing the $70,000 months. Then when it's not, then not a lot of people are thinking of it. So
Yep.
if you're doing boots on the ground, you're carrying that self. You
Yep.
know what I mean?
It's like getting in front of people and like selling them as opposed to waiting for them to come to you.
That's it. Yep.
Yeah.
And so I noticed when I was driving all my marketing, as far as like really going heavy with it, when we went heavy with flyers and door knocking, I'm like, how'd you hear about us? Google, right? Well, what got you to go to Google? Well, I got your flyer, right? And then we noticed all that. So everything works together. It's not just one thing.
It's true. Yeah.
So we started diving into our numbers, you know what I mean? Really learning that after my business coach came in. And once I got off the truck, things really got magical, I would say, right? So I started selling. Then I took my lead tech that was really good, that was upselling on jobs. And Tim Holyfield, never forget him, dude. This guy was a big teddy bear, huge guy. I put him in a Ford Ranger.
It's like my guy.
He's like in a Ford Ranger, right?
Heck yeah.
Is your guy big?
He's like 6'6".
Yes.
Who's not going to talk to a big guy, right? Big teddy bear.
That's
I'll be
right.
like, hit him at this, and he hits me like twice as much and closes. It's just like, right.
Yup.
Who's going to say no to this guy?
That's right. So we did have to train him a little bit. I'm like, don't go up in front of the door. Be like, you know what I mean?
They're
Like,
going to call the police.
exactly. Yeah. And so I was like, okay, just 3-4 steps down on the on the front porch. That way you're not overbearing.
Exactly.
But no, he did really, really good. But he didn't know. I learned a lot because when you get your first territory manager, guess what? He was a technician, so he's like, oh, that's going to take 30 minutes. Well, it says 80 on the price sheet. No, we can do that for 40.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And then I started seeing a lot of that.
Yep.
And it was good because now I was replicating. He had his own territory. I had a territory. And because your first territory manager, I call them territory managers, TSMs, if you will. When you get your first one, I didn't know how to manage anybody. I was never a manager before, right? And I'm like, we'll just go out and sell, right? Like, oh, you need a price list? Oh, shoot, right?
Can you just pull it out of thin air?
Yeah. So I had to get everything out of my head again, right?
Yep.
Create a price list so he can measure. And I created my 19 points to a sale, right? Like how we do exactly what we do, where we park the vehicle, all that. And he started like making sales. And he started selling up to 10 grand a week. And this is back, 5-6 years ago. I'm
That's
like,
a lot of money back then.
yeah. I'm like, heck
Still
yeah.
is.
Yeah, still did. No, yeah. And I'm like, heck yeah. So now I'm thinking, okay, how do I replicate him, right? Like, because I was selling, but I can only sell so much. And then he can only sell so much. So now we're booking up into 3 trucks.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, now let's go a little bit more, right?
Yeah, I always want more, baby.
Always
And
want
this was
more.
right here in Greenville, right?
This is Greenville, yeah.
Spartanburg, Anderson.
Yeah, we got up
Or-
to 6 trucks here.
Okay,
At the
okay.
one location, yeah, before we started like expanding. So this is before we started expanding. And so started getting him, started seeing some good stuff happen. And then I'm trying to remember the second one. I can't remember the second. We had a lot of territory managers.
Yeah.
And the reason being is because they
Sales,
come
man.
in, right? Yeah, it's like,
Yep.
What do you do? Pressure washing? You know what I mean? I'm like,
yeah.
well, no, we do soft washing, right? Like, you got to make it a step up, right? I'm like,
yeah.
we're like a pest control company for mold and mildew.
Pretty much.
And I started recruiting like lawn spray guys because there was like the lawn care business here is like booming, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's got a green lawn.
I see them
Exactly.
everywhere.
So I started changing my ads up. I'm like, not roof cleaning. I started doing like spray applicator, right? And they're like, what is this? So I started creating,
Smart.
just different things to get
Yep.
people in. And so when we got into Duncan at that location, that's a whole story too. We had to be out of our first. I was subletting for my t-shirt company, and then he lost a big contract. Hey, you got to be out in 2 weeks. You know how much equipment we always have.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, oh my word. So trying to find, and that's the thing with business. Like things are going to come, as you guys know, but we have to, tweak it. We got to pivot and we got to overcome those obstacles.
You got to make sure
Yep.
you set yourself up for success.
Yep. And
Yeah.
they're always going to come at us.
Yeah, and prepare yourself to be blindsided.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, even we can set ourselves up for success, right? Like
Right.
thinking that this is going to
Yeah.
happen, but then
Yeah.
you're like, whoa, where did that come
Yep,
from?
yep.
Right? Where's this?
Contingency plan.
Exactly. Yeah. $40,000 tax bill. Like
Yeah,
I can tell
yeah.
you so many horror stories.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
but that's small business,
Right.
right? And that's what kind of gets us thick skin. That's what sharpens our blade, right? To level up. And I'm a firm believer in that. Like I had to level up as a business owner, right? As a human,
Mhm.
Before my business would change. And
Yep.
so that was me looking at, reading the books, reaching out for people that were in my shoes that I wanted to be in.
Yep.
And so, just doing that, going to events, finding that person, right? Trying to just corner them, right? Get the knowledge that I needed
Yep.
to get to the next step. And then I found the next person, right? And it was that kind of that game of, catching that person.
Right. So going back to the convention thing where you you went to your first convention and you said you slept in your van and stuff like that. Do you, when you do these conventions and you speak at these conventions and you go to these conventions, do you like have a soft place in your heart and do you look for people in the back in the corner and kind of stuff like that? I immediately thought of that,
Yep, I
because there's
sure do.
always one trying,
There is, yeah. I mean, I've had people come up crying. You know what I mean? They're in that spot. So I want to talk to my past self.
Yep.
Because I was there. Like
Yeah.
it's still on the back of my tongue. Like you know what I
Right,
mean?
yeah.
Like I'm fighting each day because I
yeah.
know what broke is.
Yeah.
How do I pay that $126 electric bill?
Right.
And there's been blessings. Like I'm a firm believer. I don't know if you guys, believe in God or not, but
Yeah.
like God shows up every week, every day, like in a small business, right?
Yep.
I think we see it a little bit more because we're on that pivotable thing that it changes every day.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I'm looking for that person, I would say, in the crowd, right, that I'm directly speaking with or to, right? And
Right.
I'm like, I was there. And that's what I always speak on is experience and like what I've been through. Like, I'm not going to tell you something I haven't done before.
Yeah,
right?
you want to be real with them. You don't want to. The biggest thing that me and Matt like to talk about is like we don't want to sell a dream. You
Mhm.
know, we want to be real with you when we want to tell you like, okay, this is what it is, and this is what you're going to have to do, and this is what you're going to go through. You
Yeah.
know? So, I think that a lot of people they get caught up in selling a dream,
Yeah.
and I think that's kind of like Matt. Matt has basically put me like, he's in what year 5, year 6.
I started
18,
fall of
2018.
18. I didn't start full time until June of 2020.
So Matt, I'm on year 2. I'll be
Mhm.
2 full years in October, and Matt has literally put me. I mean, what is it? You put me probably 3 or 4 years ahead
Put you where I was last year.
by being transparent and telling me, hey, this is kind of what I
That's
would do.
amazing.
But I also twisted it into my own thing, and I had experience before I got into pressure washing.
Okay.
I ran car dealerships, sales manager, so I had employees.
Oh,
I already went through that whole 9, and I knew how to market. I knew how to kind of deal with money and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But with somebody in the same industry and networking with Matt, kind of took me under his wing and said, hey, this is how I do things, and you do it how you want, but
Mhm.
be prepared for this.
Yeah.
And
I think too is a mindset thing.
it's a mindset.
It's like you
thing,
start a
too.
business and you're like, I made 10K a month. Some people just that's killing it. And then like
Yeah.
their ego holds them down versus like being like, hey, I'm right here. So you're here. Like there's
Yeah.
still room for growth. And then just as like that is with us, it's like you're here and you're like, hey, there's so much even more here.
Yeah.
And then it's like, I think you told me when I was at that legacy event a couple years back in Hilton Head, you're talking about there's ladders.
Yeah.
So it was just like, that was something cool that you told me. It's like you climb the ladder and you look around and you think like you're the top dog on the ladder. And there's a dude over here, like
Yep.
10 times higher that like you only see now because you're at a certain point.
That's right. And then
So-
you get above the clouds and there's
Yep.
another ladder.
And you're like,
and you got
man.
choices, right? Which one do you want to go up? Who do you align with, right?
Absolutely. And that to me is kind of like a pivotal point for me now because I'm like, okay, I'm climbing this ladder, but I like to see such as yourself or like other people who have like climbed the ladder successfully and saying like, what ladders are they looking at just as like
Mhm.
open space out there that I don't even see now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And there's a lot. Like I just keep running into more and more and more, like for instance, Tommy Mello, right? $300 million
oh yeah.
garage door business.
Mhm.
And so you look at different industries too, and like, how are they doing it? Right. And you look at their systems, their training, who are they putting in? And it's all about people. You are building the A team because you can't do it yourself.
Yep.
And so it's all about the people you bring in the organization, and then you step them up and you basically turn them into mentors, and then they mentor their
That's true.
people.
Yeah, that's kind of what I've enjoyed so far of just like bringing people on. Because I mean, it is kind of a risk, especially thinking about like, oh man, going to fall season, I don't really position gutter cleaning. I don't really position like winter stuff
Yeah.
or like Christmas lights. So it's just like
Yeah.
having to kind of build these guys up and then like figure out how I can position them for staying busy and employed.
Yes.
So that's kind of
Yeah.
a new struggle.
So I would give you a little bit of advice there. It was like, sometimes we put our self-limiting beliefs on
Yeah.
our team too,
It's
and we
true.
don't know what they can do. So it's like, guys, look, we're going into the fall season. What can we do?
Exactly.
And then they start putting out marketing. They start like upselling on jobs, and like, you're like, dang, the team is actually doing it, right?
Yeah, it's been one of those things. They've been doing like almost 5 rounds, and they're like, "Hey, I painted out some cards here and there." I was like, "Yeah,
Yes.
like the pipeline's a little slow right now because of the seasons."
Yep.
Like you're the feet on the street.
Yep.
So like, if you guys want work, and I'm compensating them pretty much a percentage of revenue because I have like pretty much 2 lead techs.
Yep.
So I'm giving them like 20% of like revenue per day, so they have some form of like incentive.
Yeah.
To like stack jobs and do more work.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm trying to
Little
create that.
fire under their butt.
Yeah. It's like, hey, if we eat,
I love
we
that.
all eat together.
That's right.
It's like, I'm not going to pay you to clean my shop.
Yep. I call it job security.
Yeah,
If you
right.
want your job, like, you got to put some stuff out and make it
Exactly.
fun.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like, hey, we're all kind of similar minded. So
Yeah, that's good.